Today, we're going to talk about a tool that's so common we almost never question it, the to-do list. And we're going to dig into a really counterintuitive idea, why for so many of us, it's actually a blueprint for staying busy, not for getting ahead.
So let's just dive right into the central mystery here. You know these people, right? The ones who are absolute masters of productivity. Their calendars are pristine, their inboxes are empty, they check off every single box, and yet their big goals, their careers, they just seem to be stuck in place. Why does all that perfect execution so often lead to a dead end?
And that brings us to our first big idea, which we're calling the tyranny of the task. This is the hidden trap where the very tool we use for control ends up controlling us. It's built on a fundamental misunderstanding of how time actually creates value. Okay, so here's the belief we all live by. Checking off those boxes feels good. It feels like we're building momentum. But the signal, what's really happening, is that most of those tasks are actively killing your leverage. And what's leverage? It's just getting a much bigger result for the same amount of effort. Most tasks are the complete opposite. They take your most valuable resources, your time, your focus, and give you almost nothing back. And this is so crucial because a to-do list just flattens everything. A task like email Bob sits right next to develop the entire Q3 strategic plan. They look the same. They're both just one line item. And this makes it incredibly easy to go for the cheap win, that satisfying feeling of checking a box, instead of doing the hard, messy work that actually creates an impact. So, what does this look like out in the wild? I mean, this isn't just a theory. It is a visible, predictable pattern that shows up in every single high-stakes environment you can think of, from startups to creative studios. We see it everywhere, don't we? You've got founders who get stuck answering support tickets instead of closing that one massive deal that could change everything. You have operators who spend their entire day in status meetings while the one core process that's actually broken just keeps on breaking. Creative teams get totally bogged down in tiny revisions, and they never make the one bold choice that would define the whole project. In every single one of these cases, the small, urgent stuff is constantly suffocating the big, important work. And this really gets to the core of the illusion. All that motion, answering emails, going to meetings, checking off boxes, it feels like momentum. It feels like progress. But a lot of the time, you're just spinning your wheels. Real momentum, the kind that matters, comes from moving forward on the critical few things, which, funny enough, often doesn't look like much motion at all. This brings us to the actual physics of performance. The game you're playing isn't about managing 100 equal tasks. No, the game is all about asymmetry. It's about a world where outcomes are never, ever evenly distributed. Now, we've all heard of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. It's really easy to just write it off as some business school jargon. But in reality, it is a brutal, fundamental law of the universe. A tiny, tiny fraction of your inputs, your choices, your actions, your focus is going to generate almost all of your results. And that is the essence of leverage. Finding and executing that one right action creates a huge, disproportionate outcome. Your to-do list, with its 100 little busy actions, is almost perfectly designed to distract you from ever finding that one right move. So what's the mechanism? What's the glitch in our own code that traps us in that low-impact 80% of tasks? Well, it's a principle called Parkinson's Law. Basically, if you give yourself a list of 10 small things to do in a day, you will unconsciously let those tasks expand to fill the entire day. It's a psychological trap that guarantees busyness will always win over real effectiveness. Look, getting this isn't just some intellectual exercise. There are real, tangible costs for people who stay trapped in this cycle of activity over impact. So let's talk about who really loses this game. The first cost is that busyness makes you invisible. When you're constantly seen handling the small, the urgent, the reactive stuff, no one ever gets to see your capacity for high-leverage, strategic work. You become known as the person who handles the noise, not the person who creates the signal. And that leads directly to the second cost. You become replaceable. The more your work is just a series of simple, repeatable tasks that anybody could check off a list, the more you become a commodity. It's the high-leverage work, the stuff that can't be easily listed or delegated, that makes you indispensable. And ultimately, here's the most tragic cost of all. That truly game-changing project, the breakthrough idea, the strategic move that could completely redefine your career or your company, it just stays on the back burner forever. It's always waiting for that someday when you're finally less busy.
a someday that never comes. So, how do we actually get out of this trap? Well, the answer isn't a better to-do list app or some new productivity system. It's a completely different way of seeing the world. It's about adopting the high-leverage mindset that you see in elite performers. You see, high performers don't manage time. They hunt for leverage. Their entire focus is on pulling the signal out of all the noise. They are constantly scanning their world and asking, where can one single action produce a 10 times result? They become obsessed with finding their one thing, and they are ruthless about ignoring everything else. So to help you cultivate this mindset, we're going to end not with a bunch of answers, but with a new filter for your attention. Just 3 simple questions to ask yourself instead of making another list. First up, what feels productive but really isn't? This question forces you to see your own traps. That little dopamine hit you get from clearing your inbox or finishing some trivial task, is it actually moving the needle, or is it just a convenient way to feel busy? Second question, what is hiding your big moves? Seriously, look at your calendar, look at your lists. What are the small, recurring tasks, the endless meetings that are eating up the time and space where your most important work is supposed to live? Give them a name, because they are the true cost of your busyness. And finally, the most important question of them all, what is your one thing? If you could only get one thing done this week or this month that would make everything else easier or just plain irrelevant, what would it be? I can promise you the answer to that question is not on your to-do list. It's the thing the to-do list helps you avoid, and finding it is the only game that truly matters.